The Nissan Qashqai's phenomenal sales success has been well documented, but you might not know that by the end of the second generation model's life, it was well off the pace compared to its best rivals. Over its lifetime, the number of competitors massively increased, along with their quality, and the once class-leading Qashqai was, by the end, still selling in huge numbers, but pretty average objectively.
But are things different now? This is the new third generation Nissan Qashqai, and in this review we're showing you inside, taking it for a drive, and ultimately telling you if it's back at the top of the family SUV class.
Before we start, you can save more than £4,000 on the old Qashqai and loads of money off all of its rivals. Go to whatcar.com to find out more and flick through all of our other amazing deals. And please do subscribe to the channel so you can see our group test with the new Qashqai when it goes live.
Now, the new Qashqai really is new. It's got a new look, new platform, and a new interior as well. And you can tell straight away that this is so much nicer than before. And even compared to new rivals like the VW Tiguan, Seat Ateca, Skoda Karoq, this is a really good interior. That's both in terms of build quality, so how well it's put together, but also the materials that are used as well. It is really impressive. Now, we are in a Techno trim Qashqai, which is towards the top of the lineup, so you would hope that it's nice, but it really is. The touchscreen infotainment system, not quite so crazy about that, to be honest, because you would have thought that Nissan would have completely revamped their touchscreen infotainment system technology with the new Qashqai, but they haven't really. So the higher trim levels get this big 9-inch touchscreen infotainment system, lower trim levels get an 8-inch screen, and actually the entry-level trim misses out on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but it's standard on everything else. So the system is much like we're used to with Nissan. It's reasonably responsive. There is a bit of a delay swiping between the menus. It's not particularly slick. It's got a simple layout, and there's a good mix of touchscreen functionality and physical shortcut buttons to help use it while you're on the move as well. But it looks quite dated already, so all the graphics are a bit old-fashioned really, and it's the same with the digital driver display. So you've got this 12.3-inch screen, which is nice and big, good to have it, makes everything quite simple to see. But just the look of it feels a bit dated even now. Also new in this interior is this control panel down here, which has the buttons and dials for the climate control. And it's great that they haven't gone touchscreen or hidden it within the infotainment system. You've got these simple, good quality feeling dials and buttons along the bottom here. So that is great. And really, all in all, this, by class standards, is a very nice interior. Now, being on a new, bigger platform means that the Qashqai is more practical than it was before. So the distance between the front and the rear wheels has been increased a little bit, and you do notice that sat in the rear seats here. So I'm just under 6 foot. I've got really good amount of legroom. Headroom is pretty good, even with this sunroof fitted. It certainly doesn't feel cramped. In fact, it feels nice and open and spacious in these rear seats. Plus, if you're sat in the middle here, this is quite a small hump in the floor. There's also 2 USB ports, and if you pull this down, there's no ski hatch, but you've got 2 cup holders and obviously the armrest here as well. So in terms of space, this is actually quite similar to what you'd get in a Skoda Karoq in the rear seats, but these seats don't do anything particularly clever. So they don't slide, they don't recline, and in a Karoq, depending on spec, you can actually remove the rear seats entirely. The boot offers 500 litres of storage, which is 50 litres up on before, and now means that it's much closer to its key rivals in terms of practicality. It has loads of underfloor storage, or you can lower the boot floor itself. You can even fit the parcel shelf underneath there. Plus, because it's kind of split in half like this, it means you can put it down the middle to create these different storage areas in the boot as well. So overall, more practical than before, and by class standards, also pretty good. But what is the Qashqai like to drive? Well, it's never been the dynamic choice in the family SUV class, has it? But this new version is definitely better to drive than the old one. The steering is still a little bit vague around the straight ahead, but really for what this car is going to be doing, the handling is definitely tidy enough. Even if it's not quite good enough to trouble the Seat Ateca in terms of overall handling ability. There are 2 suspension setups available, and the one that you get depends on the size of alloys that you go for. So if you have 19-inch alloys, like the ones that we've got here, then you get a twist beam rear suspension. But if you go for the bigger 20-inch alloys, then you get a more sophisticated multi-link rear suspension. We've driven both of those different suspension setups, and really the difference between them isn't huge. So if you go for the 19-inch alloys, then the high-speed ride has a little bit more fidget to it. But if you go for the 20-inch alloys, then the road impacts that you feel are just felt a little bit more severely. But whichever one you go for, you're going to end up with a really comfortable car. And this is another area where the new Qashqai is a lot better than the old one. As for the engines, there are no diesels, and at launch you'll have a 1.3 litre petrol engine with a choice of 2 different power outputs. And that's actually basically been carried over from the previous Qashqai, but there is a difference now because both versions of that engine now have mild hybrid setups. And what that does is offer a little bit of a boost to the performance just as you move off in the car, but what it mainly does is help the smoothness of the stop-start engine system. It also helps fuel economy and CO2 emissions, so now the Qashqai is actually a little bit more efficient than an equivalent Karoq.
There's no fully electric option, but you'll be able to buy an e-Power model. This combines a 188 brake horsepower 1.5 litre petrol engine with an electric motor, and is more like a range extender rather than a hybrid or a full EV. That means the engine never powers the wheels directly, but instead it acts as a generator to recharge the batteries on the move. And because it's the electric motor that drives the wheels, that version will feel like you're driving a fully electric car. It's not coming until 2022 though.
Now, we're driving the more powerful of the 2 engine options that are available, so we're in the DIGT 158, and performance is fine. It'll get you up to motorway speeds without any trouble, and it's not exactly going to pin you back in your seat or thrill you, but it does what it needs to do. We do though still suspect, even though we haven't driven it in the new Qashqai, that the lower powered engine is actually going to be the best value option in the lineup. It's about £700 cheaper. It has almost the same amount of low rev pull. So for most people, that'll probably be all they need. And if you do go for that lower powered engine, then you get a 6-speed manual gearbox, and we're using that unit now. It's really light, got a positive action, so it's actually pretty pleasant to use. If you go for the more powerful engine, you've got a choice of this manual or an automatic. And we've driven the auto. It's fine, it's smooth, pretty responsive, but to be honest, we just save the money and go for the manual instead. The Nissan Qashqai is priced from £23,535 right up to £37,835, but Nissan expects just 1% of buyers to go for entry-level Vizia trim, which basically only exists to give the car that temptingly low starting price. Once you go up the trims, it does begin to look on the pricey side, even though at the entry-level price, it does undercut the Ateca and the Karoq. But the most popular trim is expected to be N connector, and we reckon that's the best value as well. It gets you the larger infotainment screen, a digital driver display, a 360-degree bird's eye view camera, as well as keyless entry and dual zone climate control. There's also range-topping Tecna and Tecna Plus, which are expected to sell well too. And Tecna is worth considering if you want a powered tailgate, wireless phone charging and a head-up display. But the Qashqai does look very pricey at the sharp end of its lineup. So the new Qashqai is undoubtedly better than before, but is it the best family SUV that you can buy? Well, it's got a nice interior, it's got a comfortable ride, it's pretty practical, so it ticks a lot of the important boxes in this class. But is it the absolute best family SUV on sale? Well, to find that out, please subscribe to our channel, because very soon we're going to be putting the Qashqai in a group test against its closest rivals. And don't forget as well, on whatcar.com, you can get a great saving on the Qashqai, the Karoq, the Ateca, any other new car on sale. Thanks for watching.